All right, everybody. We are live on YouTube, live on Twitter. Celtics fall last night to the first place Pistons, 112 to 105. That's okay, though. We've got our guy, the voice of the Boston Celtics, Drew Carter's joining us today. We're going to talk about last night. We're going to talk about the season as a whole. You guys know the deal. This is Green with Envy. Let's lock in. What up, what up, what up? Welcome into another edition of Green with Envy. As always, this is your boy Will Weir checking in. How you doing? How you living? Joining me as he does each and every time, my best friend, co-host, and the coach of our podcast, the one and only Greg Manakis. Greg, you ready to get into our conversation today with our guest?
I'm excited. I took the whole day off of work for this. Let's go.
So without further ado, we have, of course, here on our screen, we are live on YouTube, live on Twitter. We have our guy, the voice of the Boston Celtics, the one, the only, Drew Carter. Drew, appreciate you being here, man.
What's happening, boys? Great to see you again. This is one of my favorite shows to come on. It's nice that, you say I'm the voice of the Boston Celtics. I don't know if I've said this with you before, but I'll never call myself that because the real voice of the Boston Celtics was actually at the game last night. You get a little sneak peek right there. Can you see that picture?
Hey, there it is, man. Mikey there back in the building.
The OG was there with his wife Terry last night. You know it's a big game when the Gormans show up. I didn't even know they were going to be there, but I was running around pregame, going into the tunnel, trying to order a salad to eat at halftime. And there's Mike and Terry in the tunnel. I'm like, oh boy, this is a big one, and this is going to be a good one because the Gormans are here.
No, I saw him wander into the background of I don't know if it was the post game or pregame interview, but that was a great clip.
The post game show,
retired, I wish. What's your relationship with Mike since he's retired? How often are you guys in contact?
It's great. So Mike and Terry are in Boston occasionally. They spend a lot of time in New York, and then Mike's granddaughter lives in Arizona, so they were going back there for the holidays here in a couple of days. But I get to see them, occasionally. Every now and then when they're in Boston. We actually went to the sports book at Encore to watch Yankees-Red Sox game one of that series in the playoffs, which the Red Sox won, by the way, so we should have gone back for the rest of the games because they ended up losing that series. But it's been great to, initially I looked at Mike and I was a little nervous and I was like, how's this guy going to respond to me? Nobody knows who I am and not even from Boston, and hopefully Mike doesn't hate me because I'm, trying to follow in his footsteps, but it's been totally the opposite. Mike and his wife, Terry, have been great. Terry has worked in the TV business for a long time as well. She helped found the WNBA 30 years ago, so she's got a lot of experience in the industry. So I've learned a ton from both of them, and it's very special to me that I can call them friends now, and we can hang out after a game like that.
Yeah, what's Mike like at a sports book? I've never pictured Mike Gorman at the casino. So now that's after you said that, all I can picture about is what is Mike Gorman like at the casino?
Well, yeah, he went to the high roller table and won a cool mill at roulette. No, I don't know. We didn't gamble at all. At least I didn't. I don't know what they did. After they might have snuck back in there, but no, we were just chilling at the sportsbook, which is really cool. I mean, if you guys have been to a casino sportsbook, there are a million TVs and everyone's like really dialed into the game. And there are a couple of Yankees fans, so you can chirp a little bit at them because they're everywhere. They're like cockroaches. You just can't get rid of them. But it was a really, really fun experience. And hanging out with them, I mean, both of them have so much wisdom, Mike and Terry. So it's fun to just chill with them and, talk about everything.
That's great, man. We actually had Mike on the pod a couple of years back. So when the episode plays, it always starts with, "Hey, this is Mike Gorman. You're listening to Green with Envy with Will and Greg." So we're gonna have to get you to do a little voiceover for us as well, so you can go back to back with Mike, just like you've done in your career, man. But yeah, he's a really cool dude. When you were talking about him at the casino, I was just imagining Mike Gorman like playing poker, and then someone like Dana White shows up with all this like crazy coked out energy, and Mike Gorman's just sitting there chilling out. Like, I'm going to teach these young boys a lesson.
Yeah, he's such a chill guy. Like they flip the last card and he's got a straight flush. Got it. And then Dana White's freaking out. Mike, just cool, man. See you guys.
Yeah, I was watching the Stuart Scott documentary the other day. Made me think it's just cool as the other side of a pillow.
Oh
That
yeah.
would be Mike Gorman just getting up from the table. But like you mentioned, if Mike's in the building, it's a big game. So last night, Celtics have had some time off to say the least. Well, we were talking about this before we went live, so we'll talk about this cup schedule that we're finally wrapping up. We're recording this here Tuesday afternoon. Spurs and Knicks will play in the cup final tonight, and then the Celtics will be back at it Friday, Saturday, back to back with the Raptors and Heat. But last night, one of the makeup cup games, Celtics get another crack at the Pistons, 1-1 going into the matchup on the season. Pistons still first in the Eastern Conference. I would say surprising to a certain degree, just with the level of comfortability that they have in that 1 seed right now, a little past the quarter-way mark in the season. And so a really big game for the Eastern Conference, 1 versus 3. Pistons end up on top 112-105. Drew, you were there live calling it locally. Greg and I, living here in Texas, we had the NBC call, but I did watch a little bit of, went back and watched some different parts of the game this morning. Got to hear a little bit of you and Scal, but I just want to start with your takeaways from this game from a team that has been at the top of the Eastern Conference all season. The Celtics obviously made a really nice run. This cup schedule has kind of slowed some of their momentum these last 2 games. So curious to know what your takeaways are from last night at the Garden.
Well, I said this at the end of our post-game hit, but, the Celtics have now played the number 1 team in the East 3 times, beaten them once, probably could have gone 3-0. The Pistons could say the same thing. Each of those games was kind of a toss-up down the stretch, and the Pistons are one of the best clutch teams in the NBA. I think they're 14-4 now in clutch games, which the league defines as within 5 minutes and within 5 points in the last 5 minutes. So the Pistons are really good in those scenarios. Celtics are now 7-8 in those games. But the bottom line is they've been in the mix and could have won all 3 of these games against the Pistons. And I said that toward the end of the post-game show, and everyone was like, well, no moral victories. We don't do that. This is the Celtics. I'm like, I'm not trying to say it's a moral victory. I'm just saying I think that the Celtics have proven they're swimming in this top tier in the Eastern Conference, and they can play with anybody. And if they get in a playoff situation, they're not going to be a big underdog against any team in the Eastern Conference, which to me is notable because I'm not sure that was the expectation. I thought we'd be pretty good. I think there's too much talent and too much winning DNA and a great coach and an amazing organization that's not going to accept a quote unquote gap year as just like, oh, we'll get through this season and then JT will come back. We'll get a draft pick and it'll be fine in 26, 27. I never thought that was the mentality. So from a big picture perspective, I think they've proven that time and again with the 5-game win streak and then the weird game in Milwaukee, I know, but the way they played against the Pistons, which is a very big physical team. It's almost like looking at your opposite. The Celtics are a team, if they're going to win big.
It's like Drew muted himself real quick. Yeah, I'll jump in there on the Pistons game last night. I think the biggest thing that stood out to me with that physicality is when the Celtics went to that 2-1-2 zone, right, Drew? I think you're back.
Yep.
That worked in the first half, not so much in the second half. A lot of it is because the Pistons, I think, shot better from 3 than the Celtics were hoping. That was the game that they decided to play, was, dare them to shoot the wing threes, right? Javonte Green hit a couple other people. Karis LeVert, I think, hit a couple. What adjustments are you seeing out of this team to kind of fit into the roster construction that we've seen?
Yeah, can you hear me again? Sorry, I was so passionate. I unplugged my microphone. I was gesticulating. But yeah, I think it's a good point, Greg, because I feel like Joe deserves so much credit for the way that this team has played this season. It was the first Pistons home game the day before Thanksgiving where Nemish Queta missed his first game of the season. And we were looking around like, what are we going to do? Because they're huge. They're one of the best rebounding teams in the league. Jaylen Duren has looked like a bodybuilder since I think he was 13 years old. So he's one of the biggest dudes in the NBA and one of the best bigs, probably going to be an all-star this year. So we're thinking, like, how are we going to get rebounds against this team? And then Amari Williams played well, best game we've seen him play, and he's recovering from a hand injury right now. But Amari played well in that game. But for the most part, the Celtics just went small. And down the stretch, they went super small. Like Baylor Shireman and Jordan Walsh were playing in the front court. And I think that kind of unlocked something in that game. And ever since, it's been, Nemi playing half the game and then the other half just going really, really small. I think we rolled out the smallest lineup I've seen from the Celtics last night where, Hauser and Shireman were the 4 and the 5. That's a tiny lineup, but it is a little bit counterintuitive. I think it's perfect Joe Mazzulla, where you watch him in press conferences, you talk to him away from a microphone. He is contradictory to his core. He's always looking at the flip side of, the consensus, right? Like when that kid asked him, how do you keep it fun? He's like, I don't like that word fun. And that's like one of his trigger words that makes him upset. This is Joe Mazzulla to a T, is being the contrarian. So, hey, the Pistons are huge and a great rebounding team. We go small. And it worked really well in the last game against the Pistons. And last night, junking the game up a little bit with that zone, it seemed like when Ivy was in there, the Celtics went to the zone. I'm not exactly sure why. This is why Joe's a mad scientist. I don't always understand the chemistry of why he's making a decision, but I trust him. And there were a couple different guys who were playing in the middle of that 2-1-2. Walsh was in there a little bit. D. White was in there. I think it worked pretty well. My thing is when Cade was off the floor, I feel like we could have played them straight up and defended pretty well. But the zone was an interesting look, and I'm looking forward to seeing if we do a little bit more of that.
Yeah, the zone was so fascinating because notoriously the Celtics do not play zone, right? Like it's them, and I think there's one other team that have played the least zone over the last few seasons in the entire NBA. So this isn't even something other than I think a few times in the preseason we may have seen them. We're like, oh, we're going to do it this year, and it was kind of like the talk of how fast we're going to play this year, and then we have the slowest pace in the league. Just just playing mind games across the board here is what this team has been doing. So I did think the zone was a really fascinating look, and I was just pulling up the box score here as you were talking, Drew, to the point of, maybe playing it with Jaden Ivey out there. He was 1 of 7 from 3, right? So kind of suckering him into some of those shots. And in the way you describe Joe as a mad scientist, I think he's easily the most fascinating part of this entire season for me. And he's a fascinating individual, as we all know, just in general. But I think with this season, and we've talked about this a bunch on our show, he came in to be the Celtics head coach in a, last second issue with the whole Ime situation. But over the last 3 years, up until this season, he's had a top 2, 3, 4 roster across the league, right? And that's not to take anything away from his coaching, but it is easier to coach a basketball team when you do have some of the top level skill players that he's had. This year, it's a lot different. And to your point, we're seeing a lot of different looks. And so this small ball look, which I was actually at that first Pistons game, or the second Pistons game, but the first home game that you mentioned right before Thanksgiving, I was sitting there with my cousin who is a basketball fan, but he even admits he's an old school basketball fan. He's like, where's a big? He was losing his mind that there was no big on the court. I was like, it's gonna be okay, man. We don't really have a big right now anyways without Nikita Skata. So like I don't really know what else. Let's just roll with it. And to your point, I think it has unlocked something. I think, and I'm curious to see here going forward. I wonder if now, to your point about Joe continually looking to play the other side of things, as the league has gotten a chance to take a breath with this NBA Cup schedule, see the Celtics playing and having success with these smaller ball or wing lineups, whatever you want to call it, I'm curious to see what Joe does from here, right? Because this is going to be now something that Joe, he made the adjustment. Now the league's adjusting. Now he's going to have to make another adjustment back to. And I'm curious, from a Joe Mazzulla standpoint, what have been some of the strategic elements of his season that have really stood out to you, even outside of just, going to this newer lineup?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit on it before, is the pace thing. And we bought in, everybody talks about playing fast in the preseason. It's like the free space on the bingo card for, a new coach press conference, especially in college. But I think it happens in the NBA too. It's like, how do you guys want to play? Well, we want to play fast. We want to be physical. We want to be built on the defense. But everybody says that. But looking at our roster going into the season, Scal and I both felt like we were going to play a little bit faster because we've been toward the bottom of the league in pace really the last few years. And with Jaylen, who's one of the best transition players in the NBA, kind of as, the fulcrum of the offense and, playing a little bit smaller, and Pritchard playing more. He likes to push tempo. White is the trailer on, those transition possessions. I felt like it just made more sense for the Celtics to play with more pace. And it's actually gone the other way. They're playing even slower. And you watch it makes sense because Jaylen's very deliberate in the half court. He likes to get into his bag a little bit, as the youths like to say, and it's working for him. He's been super efficient, and he's really moving the ball better than he has, I think, at any point of his career. This is his best playmaking season, without a doubt, in addition to his best scoring season. And the Celtics are just playing a little bit slower. And I do think that that's also intentional. I think that's another thing that Joe is preaching. Now, when you get into pace stats, it's tough to find like a catch-all stat that everyone kind of agrees on. You have the one on NBA.com, which is just raw possessions, but it's a little bit different. I think people like Joe maybe look at playing fast in air quotes as different from just raw possessions. I think where the Celtics get into trouble is when it becomes too deliberate and there's not enough movement on offense and the shots just come too late in the shot clock. But I also think that there are some benefits to playing slow where, the Celtics just don't have as much talent on the roster as they have in the past. When you shrink the number of possessions in a game, you shrink the number of opportunities for the more talented team to build up a gap. And so I think that's how the Celtics they haven't really been, blown out in this season except twice maybe. That Houston game on a back-to-back where it was a scheduled loss and they had no chance. And then there was one other one where they just didn't play well. I don't count that Milwaukee one as a blowout because they played great in the first half. But they have hung in every game and obviously won more than half of them. So I feel like Joe deserves a ton of credit for how he's built this team and changed it in his image. And I was talking to someone before the game last night. I feel like Joe, in year 4 now, has fully formed and has fully come out of his shell, if there ever was one, and is just showing you exactly who he is. We got glimpses of it more and more throughout his first 3 years, but this is his first chance to really have his identity be the team's identity. Because you're right, Will, when he took over, the Celtics have been favored to win a championship or be in the finals every year he's been a head coach until this one. And now we really get a chance to see Joe have his fingerprints all over the way the team plays, and clearly it's been successful.
Yeah, I'm almost expecting him to start like pulling out the old flex offense from like Al Skinner's BC teams just to slow the game down and make it more possession based. You mentioned JB, and I feel like we have to talk, spend at least 5 minutes talking about the season that he's having. 8 out of 9 last 9 games, 30-point games. He did miss 8 free throws in the game last night. It was just like bringing back memories from past seasons where like I finally thought Jaylen was over missing the free throws, and then last night happens. Like, I haven't thought about Jaylen missing free throws all season until last night. First question for you though on Jaylen, just a fun one, and then we'll get into his actual play this season. JB versus Beef Stew. At the end of the last time the Celtics played the Pistons, Joe trusts Jaylen to box out Stewart one-on-one at the end of the game, right? Where that box out on Stewart sealed the game.
Yep.
He had a couple box outs on him last night where they got tangled up. Jaylen does his little shake the fist thing at Stewart that Stewart did to.
Can I ask what is that thing? I feel very out of the loop. It felt like people knew what this was, and I have no idea what
he did it to Bobby Portis. Yeah. So
okay.
like
I don't.
Yeah,
is it just it's the new Jaylen signature that I'm missing out on?
No, it's Isaiah Stewart's signature.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. He did it to Bobby Portis, so JB was mocking him. Who do you think wins in a fight? Just straight up. I'm just gonna throw it out there.
I'm so glad you asked this question. We actually did discuss it on the broadcast last night because I said, Isaiah Stewart challenges everybody. That might not be the guy you want to challenge because JB does the underwater training and trains in Muay Thai and he's yoked. Like this guy, if they were doing like a battle royale with all the players in the NBA and you had a bracket, I got Jaylen Brown at least in the Final Four. The thing is, Isaiah Stewart's probably there as well. So that would be very entertaining. And Scal said last night, nobody really wants to fight in the NBA anymore. And I was like, there are a few exceptions. Like Isaiah Stewart, I think actually wants to fight everybody, which is, it's fine. That's his identity. That's how he's made it in the league. And he's a really good player. Like he's more than just a tough guy. He's one of the best rim protectors in the NBA. He's an elite rebounder. He is a huge part of their identity. So I actually have a lot of respect for him, but he does mix it up. And JB Bickerstaff said before the game, he was talking about, the physicality of the team and their identity and kind of being built in the image of the best Pistons teams ever, which are the Bad Boys. And then, the early 2000s when they won a championship and yet the Wallaces and those guys were tough as shit. So I hope we can swear on this, right?
Yeah. Let it fly, brother. It's all good.
So quoting JB Bickerstaff, this is exactly what he said. He said, our guys, they're just always ready to respond. They don't really start shit. Well, sometimes they start shit. He said that before the game, and I was thinking about that as Isaiah Stewart and JB were getting kind of tangled up. And, JB is not going to back down from anybody. And he crossed half court, and he was talking to Isaiah Stewart in the Pistons huddle. Like, he's about it, okay? And both of those guys are. So to answer your question, I would take JB. I mean, what am I going to do? Say that our guy would lose in a fight? But objectively, I think Jaylen has more disciplines, and he's probably learned some jujitsu from Joe or karate. But Isaiah Stewart, I do believe his dad was a boxer, and he is, one of the toughest guys in the league. So I would sign up for that fight. I think neither of them would tap out before they die, so it would be interesting.
I mean, Jalen's got the boxing background with his grandfather as well, too. It was famously sparring with, exactly, having all of those. So I am curious. You mentioned if there was a Final Four, so let's not derail this too long, but let's talk it out here. If there was a Final Four, and I feel like we have to, let's do non James Johnson division because he's an actual fighter, right? Like he's like, so let's just remove him.
He can officiate.
Exactly. So if
he's like M. Bison, if you win the Final Four, you get to fight the boss.
You have to He's already in the finals. You have to win to then get to face him. So if we're thinking beef stew, JB, I'm gonna throw Steven Adams has got to be in this mix 100%. Just because he's just a nutbag that I don't think is scared of anyone. Who else do we think could be potentially in this Final Four of guys that aren't just all talk in the NBA?
Well, I'm glad you said Steven Adams. He was the first one who came to my mind. He seems like a really, really nice guy and a very chill dude, but not one you want to mess around with. I think this might surprise some people, but I don't want to fight Nikola Jokic. The dude's from Serbia. And I don't know if you caught this, but the Morris brothers have a podcast now, and they said,
seen clips.
You remember Jokic like slapped the back of the head of one of the Morris brothers and gave him whiplash
for like multiple days, for like multiple weeks. Yeah.
He didn't play for months.
Yeah.
Because they had been going back and forth and getting tangled. And, the Morris brothers seemed pretty tough. And Jokic was like, I've had enough of this. And he like really injured him on the floor. So they have beef, right? So they go back with that. The Morris brothers on their podcast say, if it were a fight between them and the Jokic brothers, they think they would win. And look, guys, that's a little aggressive. That's ambitious, I think. If you think you can beat the Jokic brothers in a fight, those dudes are massive, and they're from Serbia, which to me means you're tough. So I would put Jokic in the mix.
I'd probably throw Bobby Portis in there too. Like when Bobby Portis and Beef Stew got into that little tussle a week ago, I was really excited. Like Bobby Portis breaking Nikola Mirotic's jaw. Yeah, crazy ass Bobby Portis. Like that would be a pretty good one too. So I'd throw him in there. In the chat, Rob version 1 says you just got to throw Joe in there. So if you're gonna go duos of player coach, like Joe and Jaylen definitely up there. Yeah. Ime would probably pick
Ime and Steven Adams.
Yeah, Ime and Steven Adams versus Joe and Jaylen would be a hell of a match.
Hey, listen, that sounds like a good pay-per-view that we could sell in Boston. That's one that I think could do some numbers. So I think that would be a good place for us to go with that. So all right,
hey, Will, that's my NBA Cup. That next year, Emirates sponsor that NBA Cup.
Let's do this here, Drew, because I know you've got some takes on the NBA Cup schedule. I want you to get them off right now. So the Cup schedule has really kind of jammed up some of the Celtics momentum here. They obviously had 2 games to fill in what was basically like I think a 9-10 day gap. So that's where you get the Bucks game last week, in which Kyle Kuzma and Bobby Portis, they just go nuts. It is what it is. The Celtics missed a bunch of threes. 2 guys that don't usually shoot 85% from the field shot 85% from the field combined. It kind of is what it is. And then you get last night where it's 2 top teams going at it in a game that a few breaks one way or the other, really competitive game back and forth. But now we're still back to another 3 days off here for the Celtics. So it's been a really interesting time. And so as someone that's there with the team, I want to know what has this done to the team from the momentum that was building to where we are now and then where we are going forward with the schedule?
Yeah, and I'm looking at this stats report I got from last night because there's some stuff in there about the Celtics on short rest versus on long rest, like with multiple days off, and we're better this year on short rest. And part of that, I think, has to do with, the fact that during the start of the season, before the NBA Cup, the games are jammed in there, because they know that they're going to have this 2-week window where everyone plays twice. And I just feel like, let me just start by saying, I think the NBA Cup's a really good idea. I actually enjoy it. I think, the courts are cool. I think it's smart to have a way to try to drum up a little extra interest with some more incentives for the players, and the fans can have something to root for at this point of the year. You're going up against the NFL. It does feel like it takes the NBA a long time to kind of click into gear in terms of public interest with the NFL still going on. So I like the NBA Cup. I think it's a good idea. with that being said, I feel like it's really like an unforced error how they've done the schedule. First of all, nobody cares about the preseason at all. Nobody gives a shit. We had 4 preseason games this year and saw the other team starters once for a half in the last preseason game. So why are we even doing that at all? I mean, I haven't really heard a great argument as to why the season doesn't start at the beginning of October as opposed to the end of October. Then you give yourself 3 weeks of cushion where you don't have to jam the games in before the NBA Cup. You can still take your 2-week window if you want to have that be the only thing on the schedule. Another decision, by the way, I don't really agree with. Like, you can do the entire knockout round. It's 3 rounds. You can do that in a week. It doesn't have to be 2 weeks. And then that way you don't have to open up a 2-week window in the schedule where the Celtics play twice in 2 weeks and lose all the momentum they've had. And really, the real thing is it's not about this time where they play twice in a week. That's fine. It's good to have days off because we want players to play. And we're lucky, guys. The team we cover, the guys actually like playing. And they've got a great sports science and training staff. And our dudes rarely miss games. Obviously, Jason Tatum, a first-team All-NBA guy, isn't playing. But it seems like every night he's the only dude on the injury report. So I feel really lucky to be calling games for the Celtics where it's not like we have a game where, 4 of our top 6 are missing. That rarely happens. But around the league, it happens all the time. Think about all the stars who have missed a bunch of time this year, especially with, how petrified everybody is of the Achilles injury. So if a guy gets a calf strain, you can kiss him goodbye for 2-3 weeks. And that's a new thing in the NBA. So when you jam the games in there, it makes it more likely that guys are going to have to miss time. And I just feel like if you start the season earlier and you don't take so much time with this cup knockout round window, you can fix a lot of these issues just like that. And I don't really understand why they haven't done it already.
I really like your idea of kind of because the debate's always around, is an 82-game schedule too much? The answer is yes, but no one's taking away games, right? No one wants to lose money. But if you extend it out, you give yourself more opportunity to not have to squeeze in those games. Like, I'm looking at the preseason schedule right now, and there's like a bunch of days off that are just not really needed, right? That could just be, you could easily make that a slower build to the season. And I think for me with the NBA Cup, I think when you get to the knockout stages, they all have juice. I really like the knockout stages. With you, they could be a little bit more condensed. Like, also, can you imagine going to Vegas from Saturday? You go there for Saturday, then you extend your stay until Wednesday morning. Like, they might get rid of Vegas altogether anyways, but that's a large ask on a whim for, for these fans, if you want to have juice in the arena. And so, one of the things that for the Cup that's been bothersome to me that I brought up on this show is when they have the different groups. It really bothers me when we're in the middle of tournament play, but they play the same team multiple times. One game counts, one game doesn't count. So in your version where we extend it out here, October is essentially preseason / warm-up month. Let's just make the whole month of November's Cup games. You only play the teams in your group. You play 2 games a week, maybe 3 games a week, and you just play the Nets, the Magic, whatever teams are in your group, home and home. And it kind of then expands it out a little bit. You get a little bit more, a little bit more gravity to it, a little bit more depth to it. And it makes it really simple because I think there's too many nights where even Tuesdays and Fridays, I'm like, hey, I'm tuning in. And sometimes I'm like, wait, where's the funky court? Like, it's this one doesn't count, but the other one counted. So I just think there needs to be a little bit more connectivity, but I really like your idea of starting the season a little earlier to give a little bit more space and then get these great games where when teams have rest, shockingly, they look a lot better. It's a lot better basketball.
Yeah. And, it's new. It's year 3 of the Cup. So don't expect, they didn't even have a name for it in year 1. We were still calling it the in-season tournament. So I get it. Like, this is new and, the league is trying to figure it out. But that would be my suggestion is if you really want to do this at the start of the year, why not open the season, 3 weeks earlier than we are right now? Because I don't think that the way they're doing it now is sustainable. Where the Celtics played 5 and 7 and then had a day off and then had a 3:30 start in Toronto. I mean, 6 and 9 with an early start at the back end is not easy. And thankfully, like I said, our guys like to play and we're better on short rest. But in terms of the health of the league and, other fans seeing star players, I just feel like it's not sustainable. So let's come together. We have a common sense solution. And let's fix this bad boy. Because I think, like I said, I think it's a great idea. It just doesn't have to have such a negative impact on the rest of the games where because of the Cup, everyone has to play a ton at the start of the season. I just think there are a couple, simple fixes that the league could make. Now, of course, anytime something seems simple from the outside, it's probably much more convoluted, but that would be my suggestion.
Yeah, and I think with the condensed schedule at the beginning of the year, it puts a lot of pressure on guys to be there every night playing basketball, which Jaylen Brown has done. I think he's missed one game this year. We got completely sidetracked with the fighting conversation earlier. We didn't get to actually touch on Jaylen's play this year. So, what have you seen out of Jaylen Brown this year, where he's playing at an MVP level? In my mind, this is on par with any season we've seen out of Jason Tatum. Like, it's just been really impressive to watch Jaylen Brown grow into this team leader, number one option. So what are your thoughts on Jaylen's season?
Well, I've been so impressed by him, and I have so much respect for him. And a big reason why is what you said about how he hasn't really missed any time at all. He missed the one game was, an in and out against Washington, where we won the game by 45, and then we played the Lakers at home the next night. And
Which,
he was there.
Real quick, apologies to our producer Alex. It's the one game he went to. He lives in DC. Went to the one game against the Wizards. The one game Jaylen Brown sits out. Sorry about that, Alex.
Yeah. Sorry, Alex. I mean, you'd rather see the German rock band that your dad is in anyway than a Celtics Wizards game. So that's more entertaining regardless. But start with that. Start with the fact that he always plays. Then the fact that he takes accountability. I mean, last night he said, "This one's on me." I'm looking at the box score like, "Yo, bro, you had 34, 8, and 7. You sure this one's on you?" I know he missed some free throws, but that to me wasn't the difference in the game. The Pistons missed a bunch of free throws as well. I think Thompson was maybe 1 for 6 or 1 for 7. So anyway, I just think Jaylen has brought it on a nightly basis. You mentioned, Greg, 30 plus in 8 of his last 9. And the one where he didn't have 30 was a triple-double at Cleveland in one of the Celtics' most impressive wins of the season. He's just been tremendous. At the start of the year, when we were 0-3, Scal was talking a lot about how he didn't feel like we were a very good passing team. And I thought that was where we missed Tatum the most. Because when the offense is running through Jaylen, he's never been a high assist guy. And I felt like we were really missing some playmaking, because Jaylen was scoring super efficiently, but it did feel like a lot of standing around for the other guys. And even in a month, I feel like that has improved immensely. I mean, he had the 7 assists last night. If you're it's kind of simple with Jaylen to me. If you're going to play him one-on-one, he's going to score. And now if you're going to bring an extra defender, he's going to find the open guy, which I don't know if at the start of the year he was doing as well as he is now. So I think he's improved even from the high clip he set at the start of the year. And he should be, maybe first, certainly second team All NBA at this point of the season, because what he's done is remarkable.
Yeah, he slipped into the top 5 of the NBA.com MVP ladder. What I actually saw out of Jaylen early in the season, we talked a little bit about it on the pod, was it looked like he was trying to facilitate. Like, he was still scoring efficiently, but it almost looked like he was like, oh, well, this is what JT used to do, so I have to do a lot of what JT used to do, versus just being great at what he does and actually doubling down on his strengths as being a play finisher. And I thought Mazzulla also did a good job of, putting him, wide pin downs, getting him into the elbows and letting him just create, because then you see when teams don't play him one-on-one, they have that late help. He's able to, go up for the shot, slide a little past to Nimi on the baseline, little things like that, where the reads become a lot more simple and a lot more repetitive, versus him trying to run high pick and roll the entire game, which is not what he does the best, right? He's best at going one-on-one. He's best in isolation, getting to his spots and kind of doing DeMar DeRozan, Kobe Bryant, impressions. And I think that he's doing a really good job this year of playing within himself and just doing what he does great. Is there anything else you've seen out of Jaylen just as like leadership that you think has been different from years past?
Well, I just want to say I've seen the exact same thing you have. That to me is the big difference. When the offense is running through Jaylen versus Jason, a lot of the time the screen will come for JB before he gets the catch, and then he has the matchup he wants, he has the space he wants to go one-on-one, and then when the double comes, that's when he makes the play. JT's a lot of high pick and roll, get downhill, spray it out, or finish at the basket, which you can do when you're 6'9" or 6'10" and elite around the rim. So the offense does look a little bit different. I think that's why our pace is maybe even lower, because, Jaylen gets to his spot, makes some things happen, gets the advantage, and then they have to bring the second defender, and that's why his assist numbers are up. It's just, and I feel like Joe deserves credit for that as well, with how they built the offense around JB as opposed to how it was, around JT. From a leadership perspective, I think it starts with playing, like we talked about, just playing, being out there. Like if our star player is out there, I better be out there, and I think that's kind of the identity of the team as it is. These guys just like to play, but there's a lot of accountability. Jaylen has talked a bunch about, how he values defense and rebounding as much as he values offense. And I think he's learning this year how difficult it is to be number one option all the time on offense and maintain your level defensively and from a rebounding perspective. And I think he's done a great job of balancing all those things. But there was a time in media day where, I asked him a question about, extra responsibility without Tatum for the start of the season. And I just did a bad job of wording the question. And I said, you're 1A, no question, every time you're on the floor now. And I just don't like the 1A because, people pitting the Jays against each other is the oldest bullshit in media. So I didn't want him to think that I was like falling into that or trying to make him feel like I was doing it. So I went and I found him after the interview and I was like, hey man, just want to, apologize for using that terminology. It's not what I meant. I just was talking about extra responsibility without him. And he was like, no, man, you're good. But I think when people talk about 1A, 1B, they're only talking about offense. They're not talking about defense and rebounding. And those are things that he really values. We've heard for years from him what he wants now at this point of his career is to make an all-defense team. I don't think the MVP is his goal or even first-team All-NBA. I think he wants to be on an all-defense team. And again, it's hard to do that when you're scoring almost 30 points a game. But I feel like that's where he puts a lot of, eggs. That's one of those baskets where it's very valuable for him. To me, Jaylen's all-around game has been just incredible to watch this year and really fun.
Well, it's kind of weird that, the whole pitting of JT against JB, it is media created, but it's also natural and human for us to compare two guys that like play the same position more or less. So one thing that I've noticed this year, Jaylen's having an unbelievable season. Like he's pumping up the crowd. The crowd is clearly responding to him. He's kind of like the puppet master of the whole arena in Boston. I still haven't heard any MVP chants for him yet. Like anytime Tatum would go to the line, there would always be MVP chants, even if it was just like one or two lone voices in the wilderness yelling out MVP. There was always something. I haven't heard one MVP chant for Jaylen. Is that just not coming through the TV? Like, have you heard any live? Like, what's going on?
Well, it's funny you bring that up. I tweeted, I think last week during the Knicks game, like next time JB's at the line, let's hear some MVP chants, folks. Like, come on, this guy's playing out of his mind. And of course, you get some. I mean, it's social media, so you get some people like, "Well, we just want him to make the free throw. He's going to miss the free throw anyway, or he's not in the MVP discussion." Like that's.
I like your Twitter fan voice. This is I'm a big fan of this.
That's how they all sound. Well, he's not going to win MVP anyway. I'm like, no shit. Like no one's going to win the MVP aside from SGA and Jokic, assuming they stay healthy. That's just the part of the league we're in. Okay, I get it, but how many guys get MVP chance in a season? Like 100? If a guy is playing really well at home, show him some love, man. Because I'm with you, dude. That's never really been his experience in Boston. Is getting those MVP chants. He has been. What's that?
It's kind of bullshit.
It's total bullshit. Like this is the time to give him the MVP chance. It's not about being like, I vote for Jaylen Brown. I believe he should win MVP this season. That's not what you're doing, dude. Just some MVP chance. It's fun. And I actually did. I'm pretty sure I heard some MVP chants last night, and then he missed the first free throw. If he had made the first,
then he missed 7 more.
Really
the guy in the wilderness got scared off after the first missed free throw and was like, okay, he did the Homer Simpson meme and he just retreated back into the bushes.
And the guy on Twitter is like, I told you so. You can't chant MVP. He'll miss the free throw. It's like, everybody relax. Like, this is supposed to be fun. And he really deserves that support. That's what it's about. Because, we got to tip the cap to this guy. He's been amazing.
He's been so good. And I think it's really interesting now that we're getting to see him, in his element as the Jason Tatum's in the background doing his leadership, but we're getting to see JB on full display, right? And I think one of my favorite parts of the season so far is tied into his leadership. And Noah Dalzell wrote a great piece about how he's been kind of mentoring Jordan Walsh, right? And the rise of Jordan Walsh and the role Jaylen Brown's played in this is one of the is my favorite part of the season. I'll just say that's my favorite part of the season. Yeah. Greg and I basically wrote off Jordan Walsh just for the fact that we hadn't seen anything that really felt tangible. Like, okay, other than his size, what else is there? And we really hadn't seen much over 2 seasons and a couple summer leagues, and then the first 7-8 games, whatever it was that he didn't play in. And now you've seen this rise where he's getting compliments from Austin Reeves as being an all defensive player. Austin Reeves is averaging, scoring kind of like Jaylen Brown, scoring over 30 points a game. And so you're seeing him guard the best guy every night. Cade was awesome last night. Jordan Walsh got a bulk of that responsibility, but Joe is trusting him against these guys night in and night out. And so there's 2 things that we need to discuss with Jordan Walsh. And we're going to start with the fun part because it's what everybody wants to know in Celtics Twitterland or in Celtics fandom. Have we settled on a nickname for Jordan Walsh? Again, Drew, I want to apologize. Greg and we live in Texas, so we got the NBC broadcast last night. I saw you had tweeted that you had something ready for last night. So I actually don't know if you dropped this on the broadcast last night, but if we're still open, I know Greg has a pitch he wants to make of what we've been calling him on this show. So did you break it out last night, or is this still open for us to make our Shark Tank case?
I did. I said something last night, but it actually wasn't what I was planning. So I had seen, because we have, feels like a month between games now, I had gotten a bunch of tweets with nickname suggestions for Jordan Walsh, including from you, Will. You had texted me a suggestion. And my favorite one that I had seen was Warden Walsh, because I knew Jordan he liked Alcatraz much more than the garbage man or any of the dumb ones we get on Twitter. He liked Alcatraz, right? Obvious reasons. You're locked up when he's defending you. So I think with that prison motif, Warden Walsh makes a lot of sense. It rhymes with his name. There's also that thing people do where, if you're winning, you're taking dubs. We put a W at the beginning of your name, Warden Walsh. I think it makes a lot of sense. So I really like that one. Then before the game, I ran into this guy, Drew Signa, who works with JB on his Twitch streams and all of his videos. And Sigs told me that Wall Street was Jordan's favorite. And the comments seemed to like it, Wall Street. I was like, that's interesting. I hadn't heard that one before, but I kind of like it. It's, you got the money and the vault. Like Jordan's kind of a vault. You can't get through him. Wall Street is good. Then you can go Wolf of Wall Street. So we do our pregame hit and tape the open on the floor when the players come out. So a lot of the time, and Scal, we used to be like, it doesn't matter which side we sit on. We don't really care. Now I always sit on the outside closer to the court because I like to talk to the players before. Be like, hey, what's up, man? Sam Hauser usually comes over and talk shit about the Vikings, who are not very good this year because he's a huge Packers fan. Last night he was like, man, Micah Parsons tore his ACL. I'm like, yeah, sorry, bro. You guys are cooked. Anyway, that's the type of stuff I like to do before the game. And Scal's like, yeah, Drew, you sit on the outside. You're like, hey, what's up, man? Yeah, whatever. So anyway, it actually does benefit me sometimes. Like Namish Keita, Portuguese, obviously. I wanted to ask him how you say Merry Christmas in Portuguese because we were starting the show with a shot of Christmas lights in DC.
Feliz Natal.
Feliz Natal, yes, in case you were wondering. So anyway, I find that there's some utility in asking these guys just a quick question before the game. Don't want to, bother them, interrupt their flow. But they're good, feeling loose, whatever. So I saw Jordan. I'm like, yo, what do you think of Warden Walsh? He's like, I like that. I'm like, how about Wall Street? He's like, oh, I like that. I think. And then, so he goes through the layup line, comes back, sees me again, says, I think Wall Street is better. I like that one, Wolf of Wall Street. I know that's a long answer to your question, but I did drop that once, Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, the Wolf of Wall Street's great. I saw somebody put that in the chat earlier. I do think, like, for me, I don't know if this is what you had texted to Drew, Will, but the Junkyard Dog is the one that I like. Just because there was a guy, I don't know if you remember this guy, Drew. Scal probably remembers him, Jerome Williams. He played for the Pistons, and that was his nickname. And he kind of looks like Jordan Walsh. And they talked about, I think Walsh's college coach mentioned how he was like a violent defensive player, right? That's what you were going to get out of him. And Junkyard Dog just kind of, what is a junkyard dog? It guards your shit, and I think that's what Jordan Walsh is going to do. I like it. It just leans into me wanting him to just be a little bit nastier. He's definitely been physical on defense, but I want him to mix it up a little bit more. So I'm hoping naming him the Junkyard Dog will actually be a self-fulfilling prophecy and inspire him to get a little bit more dirty.
Greg wants him to punch Beef Stew in the face next time.
I did.
Yeah, I
There's
feel
your
like with
headline.
Jordan Walsh, he's aggressive, but he's not nasty. Like there's a difference between the two. Very aggressive,
Yeah.
but he's not quite
Although I will
nasty.
say, you mentioned summer league, and he had an elevated role in summer league. Third year guy, first round or early second round pick. You would expect that for him. He did have a time in summer league where he was nasty this year. You remember that he got tossed from a game, and he
Yeah,
he
that's true. I do
he
remember
got
that
two
actually.
texts, and he was kind of yelling on his way out. We saw a little nasty, and I think that he's just coming out of his shell more. And he's feeling more confident. He's still just 21, by the way. Like this season has been remarkable to watch because I was with you guys. I didn't have expectations for him at all. You wrote him off, but Jordan Walsh didn't write back, baby. He doesn't care that people wrote him off. Like what a year for him.
He's literally my favorite part of the season. He's becoming the main topic in all of my Celtics group chats, where the other day it was me, Greg, and our friend Phil. And I said, I was just watching Jordan Walsh. I stopped watching the ball. I was just watching Jordan Walsh defend on ball, off ball. I was just following him the entire time. And now you're seeing little glimpses of his offense. And so, you mentioned him kind of coming out of his shell. Drew, you've been with the Celtics the same timeline as Jordan Walsh. You started your first season doing all the away games while Gorman kind of had his victory lap at home. And now you're in your third season. He's in his third season. So tell me, what have you seen? Like tell us more about coming out of his shell, other than obviously Greg and I get to see, holy shit, he's now a full-time starter. And we're wondering
on JV's Twitch stream.
Yeah, he's getting asked if the carpet matches the drapes. And, so I'm curious to know, tell me more about what the evolution of Jordan Walsh that you've gotten to see firsthand, Drew.
Well, I'll just be honest. The first couple of years, I was around Jordan Walsh. The most notable thing was some of the outfits he was wearing. Like this guy's got a different fashion sense. He was wearing like a Kevlar vest a few weeks ago on the team bus. I'm like, yo, man. We're traveling in style here. I don't think you need to be wearing a vest. I think we're good. We have like 10 security guards. I think we're good. But it was a fashion statement, So this is going to sound a little bit weird, but it's almost like he's taken his off-court persona where he's a little bit different, a little bit quirky. He doesn't really care what people think, and applied it to the basketball court. That's why I say he's really, I think, come out of his shell. It's like the Jordan Walsh who looks in the mirror and says, I look fly as hell, and I don't care what anybody says, is now playing like that. His endless energy, he has earned his spot in the rotation. Again, I give credit to Joe for giving him a shot. He played sparingly his first couple years, sparingly at the start of this season. Then he starts the second half in that game against Philly, and ever since he's been in the starting lineup, he just made it. Once Joe gave him a chance, Jordan gave him no choice but to keep playing him consistently. And I'm with you, man. There are times where it's really hard to take your eyes off of him because he is flying around. There are levels to how hard guys play in the NBA, and playing hard is really a skill. I think you've seen teams put more emphasis on that even the last couple of years because everybody in the league is so skilled right now, and there's so much talent across the board, even like 6th, 7th, 8th man on the bench. Playing hard is a serious skill because that's how you separate yourself. And that's what Jordan has done. And it's both ends of the floor. There was a play in that Milwaukee game where it was like Jordan Walsh teleported. He got a steal on one side. 2 seconds later, he's 94 feet away getting an and one. And I've just been amazed by his constant energy. In a league where the slightest level of difference in effort, if one guy's going 95, one guy's going 100, it's mathematically impossible to go 110. But Jordan is going 100 all the time. It makes a huge difference. And I'm just really happy for the guy, because he has earned this, and, give credit to the Celtics player development staff as well. But you see all the work that goes into it for a guy like Jordan Walsh, who is preparing every day for the last 2 years like he's going to play and going to start. Now he finally gets the chance to do that.
Yeah, and there's a whole bunch of guys on the team that play really hard. Derek White, obviously, Jaylen, Peyton Pritchard. And then you've got the other young wings on the team, right? And that's Hugo Gonzalez, Josh Minott, Baylor Shireman plays really hard when he's out there. A lot of that comes from Joe, right? And his kind of philosophy and the doggedness that he brings to the team. But one thing I was just thinking about is like the internal competition amongst those young wings and how they must be inspiring each other to play harder and harder every single day. What have you seen in terms of just like their internal competitiveness kind of behind the scenes?
Well, just look at how the rotation has shaken out this year. Minot is starting at the beginning of the year. Ugo gets a spot start. Then Jordan enters the starting lineup. And Minot had that quote about, moving from the starting lineup to the bench. And it's like, well, you know, if you're poor and you give me 20, or if I'm poor and you give me $20 and then you take it away, it's like I never really had it. And that was how he looked at, being in the starting lineup. There are going to be no handouts. I mean, it's the NBA. It's not like travel basketball where, the coach is one of the kids' dads and he's going to put them in there even if they don't play hard. This is if you're not busting your ass when you're out there, you're not going to play. Even without Tatum, even without the guys we lost in the offseason, you must play incredibly hard or else you're not going to play. And I actually think that it's going to serve them well when JT does come back, whenever that is, that we found something with Jordan Walsh and Ugo Gonzalez and Josh Minot. And the guy who's really exciting for me is Ugo. I mean, he's 19 years old. I think the talent is obvious, and one of those talents is playing really hard. And he's not going to lose that as he, gets more opportunity in the rotation. So I'm excited to see him blossom. Hopefully it's this year.
And he's so physical too, man. Like he boxed out Beef Stew a couple times on his own last night. They had him in the middle of the zone. His legs just seem like they're thick, man. Like he's built for a 19-year-old. So it'll be interesting to see how his body continues to fill out over the next few years. Kind of very similar to Denny Advia as a player in my mind. Like I think they have a very similar body type. I could see him kind of turning into one of Scal's guys. I think Advia is one of Scal's guys, right?
Real quick, can I ask you a question about Ugo? Because I feel like he's very hard on himself because he constantly hits himself in the head whenever he makes a mistake. Like he does this very visibly. Like anytime
he
made
that he's two big ones last night back to back.
He made two big ones, but I mean, even when he makes smaller mistakes, you can see him kind of use that as a motivational tool. Does he seem like a guy that's very hard on himself, Drew?
Well, he's been a professional since he was 9 years old. So, yeah, I think so.
By the way, the European guys that come over here as professionals, it's always so crazy when you like, I was like, even they were talking about Wemby. He's like, oh, he's been professional since he's 15. So he's a 7-year vet at this point, or 8-year vet already. Like, it's crazy.
Right. Yeah. So I think he's held himself to a high standard for a long time. Both of his parents were professional basketball players. So that is not surprising. I also think that, think about what we just talked about with the rotation. If you're not playing hard, you're not in there. You can make mistakes as long as they're not mental mistakes or lack of effort mistakes. That's when you're going to get yanked. I think the time where you see Joe do the point of emphasis, as we were calling it in the preseason, where it's a quick hook for somebody, is when they give up an offensive rebound. It's not, an issue of, maybe you were a little out of control or you made a mistake because you were playing too hard. That's not going to get you pulled from the rotation. It's just when you're not playing hard enough. So, yeah, I think Ugo is hard on himself, but won't be punished for errors that come from him just playing too hard. Now, the one thing is he and Walsh both have to be smart because they only have 6 fouls and they can't pick up cheapies. And that happened last night with both of them. Now, the third quarter was weird because it seemed like they didn't call shit in the first half, and then they called everything in the third quarter. So I don't really hold that against Jordan and Ugo for picking up fouls then. But those guys, their role, and you can put Minot in here as well, they're going to need to be physical with the best player on the opposing team, and you just can't have bad fouls. That's the one thing that those guys, I feel like, need to improve over the course of the season.
Drew, we'll get you out of here in a second. One more guy I did want to talk about was Neemias Queta, because in terms of playing hard, I feel like this year, this is the first time Queta has been able to sustain the level of like hard work that he typically would show for like 3 or 4 minutes, and then he'd be gassed and you have to take him out of the game. His cardio just wasn't at a professional level. But when you see him this year sprint down the court, play physical against a guy like Jaylen Duren, box people out, contest at the rim, he's like his ability to change ends of the court, it stands out to me when I'm watching the game. Because previously I feel like he would really be kind of, he has a funny gait when he runs, right? It's kind of like all limbs flying all over the place. But it seems like everything is a little bit more just like professional, for lack of a better word. Last night was the first time I texted that Neemias Queta kind of just reminded me of KG on that play. That was that huge dunk that he had when he ripped it through. I've never compared him to KG before, but like I did it
you went
last
from
night.
DeAndre Ayton to KG very quickly, Greg.
Yeah. So just talk about your feelings towards Queta this year and what he's brought to the team.
I think he should be in the most improved player discussion, which is a hard award to win because you got guys across the league who are getting better and playing more. And typically it goes to somebody whose minutes went up and they're early in their career and their stats like doubled. But to me, first of all, we need Queta to be really good and an advanced metric darling, especially with the way we're playing right now, where he's really the only big the Celtics are putting on the floor for an entire game. So that's one. He's got a lot of responsibility. So it is important for him to be in great shape. And I'm with you. I think he's in the best shape we've seen of his career. Defensively, his numbers are ridiculous. If you look at best individual defensive rating in the NBA, the top 10 is like 9 guys from Oklahoma City and then Nemi. Like he's been elite defensively. When we play the small lineup, our offense is off the charts, but our defense is not very good at this point of the season. So we need Queta to protect the rim, control the paint, and be massive, literally, defensively when he's out there. Because for those 24 minutes, that's when we need to get stops. And he's answered the call, man. I was so excited. He was one of my favorite players the last 2 years just because he's got an interesting story, first Portuguese player in NBA history. He wears a cool number, 88. Like he's really a chill guy away from the floor. And I was just excited because I felt like there was so much in there that we just hadn't had a chance to see. And then you think about how – sorry, I'm getting a spam call here. That's my cousin Spam calling me right here. I'll call them back later. But to me, like Queta, just seeing him blossom has been one of my favorite parts of this season. And it's amazing to think his career trajectory. This is a guy who was waived by the Sacramento Kings. And now he's the starting center for the Celtics, and we're like one of the better teams in the East. He just deserves so much credit. I think, I compare him, not in terms of his game, but his development to Luke Cornett. I mean, Luke Cornett is a guy who was in and out of the league. He was a two-way guy. He was hanging on by a thread, gets in the Celtics system, improves his athleticism. His feel for the game is so good. Celtics give him a chance to be a rotational big, and then he signs a big deal in San Antonio, and now he's like a real rotational big in the league. And the Celtics, you guys talked about reads earlier. That's really what they emphasize with their player development. It's not, get in your bag, dribble, jab, step back, cha-cha, slide 3. It's, okay, here's the situation. You got to make a read in a split second. And that's where Nemi has improved immensely, even from the start of the season, where, that play where he caught the ball and realized, there was no one in the lane. He starts dribbling at the 3-point line. How many times have we seen that in his career? Almost never. And moving the ball. And he's a big reason why the Celtics have improved as a passing team over the course of the season. He is just leveling up in front of it's like Neo in the Matrix. Like he is getting it faster and faster. So that's why I say he should be in the most improved player mix this year.
Yeah, Nemi has been a revelation. I think the Celtics development staff in general, it just gets kind of a little underappreciated, although we talked about this in the last episode. The Athletic had an article where they were ranked the second best front office in all of basketball behind Oklahoma City, and I think their development has quite a bit to do with that. Drew, we'll get you out of here on this. This is year 3. You here with the Celtics. You mentioned you're not from Boston, but you've been in the city long enough. Now, I want to ask you, you starting to feel like a Bostonian?
Yeah, Greg, who's behind you, by the way? Just I got
that's my dog.
What's up?
My dog Blaze. Yeah, he's 13-and-a-half-year-old pit bull.
Adorable. That is the 4th member of the podcast today. I do sort of feel like that. But the cool thing is it still feels like new and fresh to me. It hasn't worn off, the fact that I actually live in Boston, which is a place I always wanted to live. I got family from this area. My grandma was in Duxbury when I was growing up. My aunt lives in Quincy. She has for my entire life. My family used to live in Norwell down the South Shore when I was 1 to 2 year old. So I don't really remember that, but I've always wanted to live in Boston. And I was walking around the other day and it was snowing a lot here. You guys are soft now living in Texas. You don't understand what snow even looks like
Honestly,
anymore.
I would take offense to that, but it's 100% factual. So I can't take offense.
I know it's true. Take it from me. I grew up in Minnesota and then lived in Alabama for 2 years and softened up a little bit. But now that I'm back in a cold city,
it happens quickly.
I feel like my blood is getting a little thicker now. And I was walking around, it was snowing. I was listening to some Christmas music, and I'm like, damn, this place kicks ass. Like I love living here. Obviously, there's so much to do. But the best part about being in Boston, at least for my purpose, is people just love sports here. Like there is a really high give a shit level for all of our teams. And the Pats are really good right now. You know, the Red Sox had a decent season last year. The Bruins are okay, but it's been a Celtics town for, really ever since I got here. And it's just been so fun to, be a small part of the Celtics family. And it's reached the point now where everywhere I go, people will come up to me and talk about the team. And I think that's really fun. So yeah, I love living here. I'm still getting used to the whole driving here thing. So maybe I'm not a Bostonian from that perspective, but like this is home now. And hopefully it will be for the rest of my career.
Yeah,
do you have a favorite?
Sorry, Will, go ahead.
I was say, do you have a favorite? Hey, Drew, some guy just kind of shouts you out like from the.
Hey, that's
you're going to get a sandwich. Yeah. Hey, Carter, come here. Let me tell you. Do you have a favorite moment of that sticks out to you?
Yeah, my first season, I was hanging around the post game show. We had the set on the concourse at the Garden, and I hear from behind me, new announcer, Drew Carter. I look back and there was this nice guy, and I took a picture, and it was cool. That was I
love that. Oh, that's so great. Do you ever? So we have a buddy. He's a Wahlberg, Brandon Wahlberg. Do you ever talk to Donnie with his nephew?
I have not spoken to Donnie, I don't think.
Okay. If you ever see them, say what's up to Brandon. He's always with Donnie, but he has like the most Boston accent ever. He's such a funny kid. But yeah, he's a funny dude. You said people are recognizing you right now. Are you recognizable enough to get on one of JB's streams?
Well, when I was telling that story about Media Day, when I went to find him and apologize for the question, he was streaming on Twitch at that time. And I didn't really want it to be like public. I just wanted to talk to him, one-on-one. But I was on the Twitch stream, and Jaylen Brown Clips put it on Instagram, which I thought was pretty cool. I was like, man, it's a big deal. Like I get to be on JB's Twitch, but I'd love to go back on there. I mean, it's no Green with Envy, but it would be pretty neat to go on there.
We would open ourselves to a collab if JB asked.
Yeah.
We'd humble ourselves enough to do it. So you can pass that message along.
Good,
what happened to the whole Drew can dunk bit that you were working on? Are we not doing that anymore?
Well, I do have a training plan, but I kind of got sidetracked by running the marathon, which I'm doing again, by the way. So
all right. Let us know. We'll if you're raising any money, let us know. We'll make sure
I am. We're gonna do some plugs. I think it's 7 days of giving right now. So I'm gonna try to plug something on the broadcast on Friday. So everyone stay tuned. And then once we beat the Heat on the post game show, we'll just start raising money for the marathon.
All right. Well, I love it, Drew. Drew, we appreciate you being so good to us, man, taking some time out of your day here. I know you got some holiday plans with your lady here in just a little bit. So we're going to let you go so you can get to it. But we'll be looking forward. We'll see you on the broadcast for both games this week, right? For Miami and Toronto coming up on Friday, Saturday. Drew, thank you for being here, man. We appreciate it. And for everybody locking in with us here, whether you're live on YouTube, listening to it afterwards, wherever it is that you listen to podcasts, we appreciate you guys rocking with us. Have a great rest of your week, and we will catch you guys later. Peace.